In this video, we're going to be reviewing the Vevor sharpening machine for saw blades. So definitely stick in with us for that. But before we start the review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon for all of our newest videos. Let's get on to the review. All right, so let's go over the basics of like what this comes with. So you're going to wind up with a 13-15 millimeter wrench. Of course, if you have a better wrench, you could use that, but you know, whatever. Guess it saves you from having to look in your toolkit. A variety of Allen wrenches for some of the different nuts, bolts, and adjustments on the device. So that's actually kind of nice. We also have a little screwdriver that it comes with. Actually kind of a nice one. Like, kind of surprised. Like, it's not cheap plastic. It's actually got kind of like a rubber on it. So, yeah, good little add-in feature there. We also have the arbor rings for different types of arbors that you might have on different types of blades. As you can see, they actually have some pretty large ones that I'm not entirely sure what kind of a blade that would be for, but it's in there anyway. I guess if you have it, then you probably know what that is. Then of course we have our adjustment wheel, and we'll explain how that kind of comes together later on. We also have our adjustment handles that are used for various parts of the machine. Again, we'll go into that here in a little bit. We do have 4 feet for the bottom to kind of keep it off the surface like it is right now. It also comes with the actual grinder itself. So it's the actual grinder blade, I guess you could call this. We'll call it a grinder blade just for fun. On top of that, we do have a installation guide here of sorts. It's not very descriptive. It doesn't exactly walk you through one by one per se, but it's not the worst I've seen either. It is what it is. They kind of expect you to have a basic idea, I guess, of what you're doing. Overall, though, the picture does kind of give you an idea if you're really paying attention to how each item works. So there you go. So not all that bad, right? Then it has, of course, this is actually your blade adjustment area. So this is where you're going to put your blade. This is where you're going to grind your blade, all that stuff. And this, of course, is obviously the grinder. So this is what does all the heavy work. And it has the pin on there and everything for each individual blade. And a cool little on and off switch, which has a rubber protector on it, probably to keep the buttons from getting dirty. And so that way you can just wipe that off and be done with it. So this has a lot of adjustments and whatnot in order to be able to get different angles and different, angles. Well, I mean, that's what it is. So I'm really, really excited about this one, though, because honestly, I've never owned one of these, and I doubt most of you have either. So I want to see how good it is, and maybe this is something you all will want. So we're going to get to find that out together, which is kind of fun. We've already went ahead and cleaned up some blades, so they're all nice and free of debris. But some of them are still burning a little bit, so we're going to kind of go through and go and see about getting those sharpened. And then after those ones get sharpened, we're going to go ahead and test them out on the table saw. And quite frankly, see what kind of quality cut we get. I'm sure I can find something here in the shop. We only have like 10 tons of wood, like 10 tons of wood, like seriously. Like, it's almost like an obsession. But it is an obsession. It's woodworking. It's always an obsession. Just ask your wife, she'll tell you when she looks at your tool purchases. It's an obsession. Anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get on to putting this thing together, and then we'll grind some blades. Let's do it. All right, so we got it all set up and calibrated. I'm going to go ahead and show you a few things that you probably want to know when setting this up, because it might throw you off a little bit. I know they did me, so maybe it's just me. Who knows? We'll find out. But here we go. Okay, so this is our calibrated device, and you can see that our blade basically is just floating right above this little guy here, and I'll back this off so you can see what this is. This here helps balance out the blades, that way it doesn't start tilting and tipping and such. That's what basically that does. And if you notice, this is really, really, really sturdy. Now, in all the videos that I've seen on this, no one mentioned the fact that what you want to do is put this on first, put a blade on here, move this bolt up to where you need it to sit, take this off again, unless you got like a wrench or something you could do this with, I suppose, and then tighten it down so this way this doesn't wind up spinning when you're trying to do the pin part. So, which of course is obviously hanging out right here. So that's something I did find in there that, again, this has no instructions with it, so I just wanted to show that one extra thing. The rest of this is all pretty simple. Just going to bolt it together and it is what it is. But that one in particular was a little strange. So I wanted to point that out. But yeah, we're all calibrated, so we're going to go ahead and use the flat side of the grinder. It also has this bowed side here that allows you to go and do angles. But if you adjust the base, which is what I did, there's a little adjuster over here. If you adjust the base, you can move it back and forth so you can actually create an angle that way without having to adjust this, which this up here is a lot easier to use than this is down here. So things to keep in mind. Motor adjustment, of course, is right over here. And we have a little thing here that allows you to do that. The base adjustment is right here. And then, of course, this locks it from being able to go forward and back on its own. And this, of course, is the forward and back adjustment. So just want to kind of go over some of the basics. Obviously, tightening this on here, you're going to tighten it just like a saw blade. So you have one point here that you'll go and hit with, I think it's a 13 millimeter? Yeah, 13 millimeter there. And then you have over here the actual nut that holds it on and keeps it in place. And so you'll just, I think it's a 15 millimeter? Yeah. So it's a 15 millimeter on that. And so with those two, you just crank it like you would a normal table saw blade and you're good to go. The other thing that you'll want to probably do before you get yourself too carried away with this is that you have one of these Allen wrenches that comes in the package. Seems great, right? Neat little Allen. The problem is it's about that long in reality. So what we did here was we chopped off a fair amount, probably about that much roughly. So I don't know, it's probably about say maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe a little bit further. There's a little screw that's underneath the pin adjuster that is right above the rail that allows you to kind of slide the blade back and forth as you need to for your final adjustment. And because that's there, this doesn't fit very well after that point. So what you do is you just cut off about, I'd say probably about a fourth of it, so it's about a fourth of an inch, and you know, sand it up, make it nice, and then you can have something that looks like that. So there you go. So that's a little trick that I figured out while I've been doing this because I couldn't figure out. I was like, how do you get this in there? And well, you can't. So just a little disclaimer before we get going. Let's check out the actual performance of the machine and see how it does in real time. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and mark the saw blade on which tooth we're going to be starting on. So I'll go ahead and advance the blade up here. And then we're trying to miss the gullet and miss this here, or miss the pin rather in there. So now we got the blade properly in position. This is going to be our first tooth. So we're just going to go ahead and mark there. Really, this is better done with like a black Sharpie in reality, but I didn't have one, so we're getting white pencil for this. So that's about it. So we'll go ahead and plug in the machine, and we're going to be ready to rock. All right, machine's all plugged in. Let's do this. Okay, all done. So now we have a sharpened blade, so let's check it out. This piece of wood has clearly had a hard life going through the saw. As you can see, it's got some beautiful burn marks on it. And this is actually sapelli, which doesn't really burn all that easy. So that kind of tells you like how bad the situation really was. So we'll go ahead and run it through here again, and let's see how well it rips this time. All right, so this was the before. You can see lots of burn marks, lots of problems with it just in general, just not a happy area there. And this is the after. So as we can see, it did a really great job. Matter of fact, it actually kind of brought that grain out a little bit better. Probably should have had this done a long time before, but now we have it done, so now we can enjoy it. So let's get to the conclusion. Let's start with the bad. Why? Because, well, there's not that many bad things to talk about, but there's a lot of good things, and we'll get to that. All right, so the bad things. The Allen wrench, would have been nice if they went and they'd made it the proper size. That's really not a big deal. Seriously, it's really not. You know, if you've got a Dremel, which I assume by now you do, if you're watching this kind of a video, just simply spend a minute with the cutoff wheel, you'll catch it up. Not a big deal. The no instruction guide, not a huge deal, but it really would have made it a lot easier to work on it. So that instruction guide not being in there, not telling you how to do some of the adjustments and stuff like that, does kind of create a little bit of a drawback. So all that being said, what's the good? The good, it actually wasn't too hard to put together. It's pretty much common sense construction. Everything fits where it needs to fit, and that's the only place it's going to fit. So there's no real question on like, well, where does this go? If you don't know, look around a little bit. Trust me, you'll find it, and find it quickly. Second thing is, they actually include the sharpening blade. That's actually kind of a nice perk. These things do cost a few bucks. I'll link that down in the description, of course. It does have this neat little rubber thing here that kind of protects the buttons. It's a nice little extra feature, kind of dig that. So when we go and we press one of the buttons on here with our dirty fingers, it doesn't really get the buttons dirty, it gets the cover dirty, and the cover can be easily cleaned. That's definitely a positive. The other positive that I found was that the machine is actually pretty accurate. 90 to the blade is 90 to the blade. It just is what it is. When they say 0, it actually sat on 0. I'm going to give them major kudos for that. Everything on here works. It does what it needs to do. Everything's nice and smooth. A quick wipe up of the oil that's on here from the factory that keeps it protected while it's being shipped, and you're pretty much off to the races. Not a big deal at all. Yeah, and I mean, it started right off the bat. I mean, it started off the bat. Once I got the pinning set up and everything, I mean, it was great. Takes a few minutes to do that, but it doesn't seem to matter what kind of machines, one of these machines you get, they all basically have the exact same set of setup stuff. You're gonna have to fiddle with the pin thing, you're gonna have to fiddle with this, you're gonna have to fiddle with this, and to fiddle with this, you're gonna have to fiddle with where this sits, and all of that. So that's all totally normal. Every machine's pretty much built the same by about every single company that's out there. The difference is we've tested this one. We know that it actually works, so we can recommend it. So overall, would I recommend it? Well, yeah, actually I would. I think it's a fine machine. It works great. There's no complaints really about it that are major. And the machine itself doesn't have any complaints at all. It was just some of the basic packaging things that really were the complaint. So do I think you should buy it? Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a bunch of stuff, if you're replacing or having to send out to the sharpening shop a bunch of saw blades every single year, this is a product for you. This, I think last time I checked, it varies between $200 to $250 US. That's a one-time buy, right? You buy it once, then it sits in your shop. You're not going to wind up going and burning this thing out anytime soon, because you got to remember, even if you're sharpening several blades in a year, that isn't that much use. This only takes maybe like 3-4 minutes to actually sharpen an entire ripping blade, and probably about double that for sharpening something like the 80-tooth blade. So ultimately, a really good unit, and it's going to be with you for many years. So in that sense, definitely worth buying for that. But if that hasn't convinced you enough that you should buy it, there is one more thing. Just go around to your local sharpening shops or some of the mail order sharpening shops and ask them how much they charge. If I keep my blade sharp and I'm really on top of my game, I keep making sure that all goes on, this should save me around $300 to $500, rough estimate of course, per year in saw blade replacement and or sharpening. So as there isn't a huge difference between the two in reality. So that's something to definitely keep in mind if you're not convinced enough to buy one of these for your shop. It's definitely something that I would highly consider. Definitely worth the investment. So that's kind of my pros and cons on that, and quite frankly, how do you save some cash? Because we could all use to save some cash nowadays. So there you go. I hope you liked our video review on the Vevor sharpening machine. Hopefully you learned a few things. That's what it's all about. But before you go, stop. Don't click that back button yet. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon for all of our newest videos. Also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're also on Rumble, and we are on Odyssey. We are all over the place, so check us out on whatever platform that you desire. In the meantime, we'll be coming back here soon with some new how-to videos, and most importantly, stay safe in the shop.